Today, we're going to talk about the physical weight of a career, the emotional weight of being the family anchor, and how we find the grace to let it all go so that we can step into our next chapter with sophisticated simplicity. We're also going to talk about why the hardest things to get rid of aren't the old appliances or the clothes that don't fit. It's the versions of ourselves that we've outgrown but are still clutching onto like security blankets. So pour yourself something warm or cold, depending on where you're at. Let's sit together for a while and talk about the beauty of getting smaller so your soul can finally have room to grow. Hello, welcome back to the porch of Glimmer and Grace Co. I'm Michelle. If you're joining us for the first time, I am so glad that you found your way here. I've spent over 30 years in the classroom, navigating the beautiful, chaotic, and often exhausting world of education. But today, I'm navigating a different kind of map. I'm a student of the radiant unfolding, that stage of life where we stop trying to build a monument to who we were and start clearing the land for who we are becoming. If you listen closely, you might hear the distant sound of packing tape or the heavy thud of a box being moved in another room. Scott, my partner in all of this madness, is currently wrestling with the garage. And if you know Scott, you know he's a man of great patience, but even his patience is being tested by 3 decades of just in case items. We are in the thick of it. We are preparing for the great shift, our own move to New Orleans. We aren't just moving houses. We're moving closer to be with one of our adult daughters and her husband and our soon-to-be grandson. We are moving because we are going to be the grandparents who stay. The kind who are there for their Tuesday afternoon tantrums and the Saturday morning parades. But here's the thing about moving towards a dream. You have to leave the dock to get to the destination, right? And leaving the dock means letting go of the ropes. The guest room is slowly becoming a staging ground for the move. And I opened a box and it was labeled Office Miscellaneous. Inside, I found a stack of lesson plans from 1998. The paper was that slightly yellowed, thin weight that we used back then. I saw the names of students I haven't thought of in 20 years. And for a moment, I was transported back. I wasn't a 50-something woman moving to New Orleans. I was that young teacher, fueled by caffeine and a desperate need to get it right. I realized in that moment that I wasn't just looking at paper. I was looking at a version of Michelle that I hadn't been for a long time. But that version of me was still taking up physical space in my house. For many of us, our homes are museums of a past self. We have the corporate executive self with the power suits and the leather planners. We have the soccer mom self with the folding chairs and the stained uniforms. We have the caregiver self with the medical records and the heavy responsibilities. When we talk about the great downsizing, we aren't just talking about a yard sale. We are talking about a spiritual audit. We have to look at these items and ask, does this belong to the woman I'm becoming? Or am I keeping it because I'm afraid of who I am without it? I sat on the floor with those lesson plans and I felt the pain of grief. It's okay to grieve for your past self, your past friends. That teacher was a hero. She raised children. She shaped minds. She kept the wheels turning when the world felt like it was falling apart. But holding onto her papers won't make her come back. And more importantly, holding on to her papers keeps me from being fully present in the now. I took those plans to the recycling bin. It felt like a betrayal at first, but then it felt like a release. That's the first lesson of the shift. Grace doesn't require you to carry everything you've ever touched. As I mentioned earlier, Scott is currently in the garage. If I'm being honest, I think he's been in that garage for 3 days. No, Scott's the anchor in a very different way than I was. He's the keeper of the tools. He's the one who remembers where we put the extra light bulbs from 2012. For him, downsizing isn't about identity. It's about the physical history of his hands. Every wrench, every empty can of paint, every scrap of wood that he might need someday, those are his lesson plans. Watching him navigate this has taught me so much about the grace of partnership. When you're in the middle of a great shift, you aren't doing it in a vacuum. You're doing it with a partner, or your kids, or just your friends who are watching you change. And everyone lets go at a different speed. I'm the one who wants to throw everything in a bin and start fresh in New Orleans with nothing but a suitcase and the dogs. Scott is the one who wants to make sure that we have the exact right screw or screwdriver for a shelf that we haven't even bought yet. And you know what? We need both. We need the visionary who sees the radiant unfolding and the pragmatist who knows how to pack the boxes so the glasses don't break. If you're going through a transition with a spouse or a partner, remember that their past self is also fighting for space. Be an intentional navigator for them too. Give them the grace to mourn their own garage of memories while you help them keep their eyes on the new horizon. Scott and I are learning that we aren't just packing a house, we're packing a marriage. We are deciding which parts of our suburban couple identity we want to keep and which parts that we want to leave in the driveway. It turns out that the only thing we really need to take with us is the ability to laugh when our packing tape gets stuck in our hair. Let's talk about the anchor identity. Most of you listening are part of that incredible, resilient, slightly tired generation known as Gen X. We are the sandwich generation. We've spent the last decade or two being the bridge. We've been the anchor for our children as they navigated adolescence and early adulthood. And we've been the anchor for our parents as they navigated the complexities of aging. Being an anchor is a noble role. It's a role of strength. But have you ever noticed what happens to an anchor? It stays underwater. It's stationary. Its entire job is to keep things from moving. When we enter that radiant unfolding, we have to realize that our families don't need us to be anchors anymore. Our children are grown. Our parents, in their own wisdom or in their passing, have moved to a different stage. The past self believes that if we stop being the anchor, the ship will drift away. The past self fears that if we aren't the ones holding it all together, we lose our value. But I want to offer you a new metaphor. Instead of the anchor, what if you were the lighthouse? A lighthouse doesn't hold the ships in place. It doesn't struggle or strain. It simply stands, stays bright, and provides a point of reference. It is present, it is visible, and it's beautiful, but it doesn't carry the weight of the ships. In my own move, I'm letting go of Anchor Michelle, the one who felt she had to solve every problem for her daughters, the one who felt like she had to be the emotional glue for the entire extended family. By moving to New Orleans, I'm actually choosing a different kind of presence. I'm choosing to be a grandma who stays in the joy, not just the one who manages the crisis. Think about your own life. Where are you still trying to be the anchor? Where is the past self telling you that you are allowed to move because people need you to stay heavy? Downsizing your identity means giving yourself permission to float. It means trusting that people you love have their own rudders now. I have 3 very important teachers in this moving process too. We have Rocky, Elliot, and Buddha, my Bayou boys. Let's start with Buddha. Buddha is the elder statesman. He's seen moves before. He doesn't get rattled. He finds the one rug that hasn't been rolled up yet and he claims it. He's teaching me about stability in the shift. He knows that as long as his people are there, the location is secondary. He is anchored in love, not the floor plan. Then there's Rocky. Rocky is pure energy. He thinks every box is a new game. He thinks the sound of packing tape is a dinner bell. He's teaching me about joy in the process. He reminds me that the great downsize doesn't have to be a funeral for your old life. It can be a scavenger hunt for your new one. And finally, there's Elliot. Elliot is the observer. He sits and watches. He tilts his head when I start getting stressed. He's the one who comes over and puts his head on my knee right when I'm about to have a meltdown over a lost set of keys. He is the embodiment of presence. He's telling me, Michelle, the keys don't matter. The breath you just took matters. The fact that we're together in this messy room matters. We often say that he was a yoga instructor in a past life. He is always so chill. As I've been painting and packing boxes, the boys have been, well, they've been in the way. They sit on the bubble wrap. They try to help by carrying around stray socks, but they aren't worried about the past self. They don't miss the house we lived in 5 years ago. They don't care that I'm not a teacher of the year anymore. To them, the only thing that matters is she here? Is there a treat? Is the sun hitting the one spot on the floor? They're teaching me about sophisticated simplicity. We humans complicate things, don't we? We think that we need 4,000 square foot houses and tile and the accolades to be happy. But the Bayou Boys remind me that the soft life is really about the quality of the moments, not the quantity of the possessions. When we move to the Bayou, they're going to have less backyard. They're going to have to learn the sounds of the city instead of the sounds of the suburbs. But as long as the pack is together, they're content. Are you letting your past self tell you that you need to be more to be successful? Or can you look at your life through the eyes of a dog and realize that you already have everything you need for the next chapter? You have your wisdom. That's your seasoning. You have your loved ones, and you have the ability to find a glimmer in a sunspot. These three boys are my intentional navigators. They don't have the past selves to worry about. They don't have a digital boutique to build. They just have now. When you feel overwhelmed by the transition, look at your pets or look at the birds or look at the grandkids. They are living in the heartbeat of the moment. That is where the soft life begins. It begins with the realization that the only stuff you actually need is the stuff that can feel the sun on its back. Now, I want to pivot for a moment to the how of this soft life because let's be real, living intentionally and moving to the French Quarter requires resources. But the past self way of making money, the hustle, the 8 to 5, or the 7 to 2, the trading of hours for dollars doesn't fit the radiant unfolding. I'm building what I call a digital boutique. When I was a teacher, my business was the classroom. It was stationary. It was tied to a bell schedule. If I wasn't in that room, the work didn't happen. That was a fixed life. But as I downsize my physical world, I'm upsizing my portable life. A digital boutique is a business built on a quiet income. It's about taking the wisdom you already have, the seasoning of your 30 years in a field, and turning it into digital assets. You don't need a warehouse. You don't need to ship physical products. You don't need to manage a massive team. You need a laptop and a story and a willingness to help other people. This is why I talk so much about PLR or private label right products. For the wise matriarch, PLR is a shortcut that we're finally smart enough to take. We've spent our whole lives doing things the hard way. We've done the manual labor. Now we can take a beautiful digital foundation, add our grace and our unique perspective to it, and offer it to the world. My digital boutique allows me to be an intentional navigator. It means that while I'm unpacking boxes in New Orleans, or while I'm sitting on a bench at the playground with our grandson, my business is still working. It's quiet income for a soft life. If you're still holding on to the past self business model, one that requires you to be exhausted to be productive, I want to invite you to downsize that too. You don't need to hustle. You need to be sophisticated in your simplicity. In my boutique, I focus on what I call the 3 pillars for the portable life: curation, connection, and continuity. First, curation. As a teacher for 30 years, I didn't just dump information on my students. I curated it. I took the massive world of literature or history and I broke it down into what mattered. Your digital boutique is the same. You aren't selling 500-page manuals. You're selling a curated path for someone who needs something from you, from your experience. People are paying for more information. They are drowning in information. They can easily get it from AI. They're paying for your filter. They're paying for the way you see the world. When I use PLR, private label right products, I'm essentially buying the bones of a house so that I can do the interior design. I don't want to spend 3 weeks writing a basic guide on the how to journal for presents. I want to buy a high quality guide, then spend my time adding my stories about the Bayou Boys, my experiences in the classroom, and my specific grace perspective. That is how you move fast without burning out. Second, connection. The past self business model was transactional. You show up, you teach, you get a paycheck. The digital boutique is relational. Even though it's digital, it's the most human business I've ever run. My customers aren't leads, they're women on the porch with me. Third, continuity. This is the quiet income piece. Continuity means that the work you do today pays for the next 3 years. When you create a digital product once, it lives in your shop forever. It doesn't need a substitute teacher if you're sick. It doesn't need a parent-teacher conference. It just sits there, serving people while you're in New Orleans looking for the perfect beignet. That is the ultimate soft life move, decoupling your time from your bank account. Building a digital boutique is about more than just making money. It's about building a business that honors your seasoning without stealing your presence. The past self-business model was built on architecture of scarcity. You had to be there or you didn't get paid. You had to work harder to earn more. It was a linear climb, and eventually we all run out of mountain. The soft life business model is built on architecture of abundance. Think about it like this. A teacher's classroom is a physical space, but a teacher's wisdom is a digital asset. When I talk about using PLR or the private label right products to jumpstart your boutique, I'm talking about strategic grace. You are allowing someone else to do the manual labor of creating a foundation so that you can do the heart work of adding the value. If you want to sell a planner for intentional living, you don't need to design every line and every box from scratch. That is past self-hustle. You find a high-quality, sophisticated base, and then you infuse it with your stories. You add a page about finding glimmers in the garage. You add a section about the matriarch's morning ritual. Now you haven't just created a product, you created a legacy asset. And the best part, the asset is portable. It fits in your laptop. It follows you to the bayou or wherever you are. It pays for the little something extras in your life while you're busy being a grandma who stays. You aren't a hustler anymore, my friend. You're a boutique owner. You are a curator of wisdom, and the world's waiting for your specific blend of glimmer and grace. Downsizing is exhausting. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's all rose-colored glasses and easy transitions. There are days when I'm covered in dust or my back hurts and I can't find the coffee filters. In those moments, the past self wants to take over. She wants to complain. She wants to feel overwhelmed. She wants to say, why are we doing this? It was so easy when we just stayed still. That's when I have to look for the glimmers. A glimmer is that micro moment of joy. It's the opposite of a trigger. It's a small, quiet signal to your nervous system that you are safe and that life is beautiful. Yesterday, my glimmer was the light hitting the crystal vase that I have had for a long time. I had wrapped it up in 3 layers of paper to keep it safe for the move. As I tucked it into the box, the sun caught it and sent little rainbows dancing across the cardboard. It was a 5-second moment, but it reminded me that the beauty of the past is still coming with me, even if the weight of it isn't. We find grace in this shift when we stop looking at the mountain and start looking at the glimmers. Maybe your glimmer today is a text from your daughter. Maybe it's the way the air smells right before a rainstorm. Maybe it's the realization that you actually like the woman that you're becoming. When you are in a season of the great downsizing, you have to be a glimmer hunter. You have to actively search for the small proofs that you are on the right path. I want to touch on something just a little bit deeper. Part of our downsize and part of the reason why we are heading to New Orleans is really the reality of aging. Letting go of your past self often means that you are letting go of an invincible self. It means admitting that we want to be closer to family because closeness is our greatest asset as we age. It means recognizing that our needs are changing. There's a specific kind of grace required when you realize your body can't do what it did 25 years ago. The past self is frustrated by the limitations. The radiant, unfolding self sees limitations as an invitation to move slower, to breathe deeper, and to prioritize what truly matters. Moving to New Orleans isn't just about fun, it's about legacy. It's about building a life where we are integrated into the daily rhythms of our families' lives while we still are healthy and vibrant. It's about downsizing the distance so that we can upsize the connection. If you're facing a move or a shift because of health or age, whether it's yours or your parents', don't let the past self tell you that it's a failure. It's an evolution. It's a sophisticated choice to prioritize your presence over pride. So, I want to talk more about this move to New Orleans because it's a presence move in the purest form. When Scott and I first talked about this, people asked us, why now? Why not wait until you're fully retired? But that's the past self logic. The idea that you have to wait until you're done to start living, we realize that if we waited 10 years, our grandkids wouldn't be toddlers anymore. They'd be teenagers. They wouldn't want to go to the park with Mimi and Papa. In the same way, the Glimmer window for that specific kind of connection is open right now. Moving to the French Quarter or nearby means that we're stepping into a culture that values the soft life inherently. New Orleans isn't a city of hustle. It's a city that stops for a parade. It's a city that understands that a meal should take 3 hours and a conversation should take even longer. That's what I want for my next chapter. I want to give my daughter the little something extra of my presence without the stress of my anchor identity. When we let go of our past self, we also let go of the geography that held that self in place. Sometimes to change who you are, you have to change what you see when you look out the window. For me, that's going to be jasmine vines and gas lanterns. What's it for you? Even if you aren't moving states, how can your New Orleans be your current space? How can you add a little glimmer to your Tuesday? I wouldn't be a teacher if I didn't give you a little homework, so let's call it heart work instead. If you're feeling the call to let go of your past self, here are 4 steps to help you navigate the shift this week. Number 1, the identity audit. I want you to walk through your house or digital files on your computer and find 3 things that belong to a version of you that no longer exists. Is it a professional certification for a career you left? Is it a hobby you haven't touched in decades, but you feel guilty about letting it go? Is it a piece of clothing that represents a lifestyle that you no longer lead? Look at these things. Thank them for their service and then let them go. Whether you donate them, delete them, or recycle them, feel the space that they leave behind. That space is for your future. Number 2, relabel your boxes. In life, we often label our boxes with our titles: the manager, the mother, the problem solver. This week, I want you to try on some new labels. Use words like the observer, the glimmer hunter, the intentional navigator, the seasoned creative. When you change the label, you change how you handle contents. Number 3, the practice of quiet profit. Think about one piece of wisdom you have, something you've learned through your seasoning. How could that become a quiet income asset? You don't have to build a whole website today. Just identify the wisdom. Maybe it's how to organize a chaotic classroom, or how to navigate a difficult family dynamic, or how to bake the perfect sourdough. Wisdom is the inventory of your digital boutique. It's portable, it's yours, and it's valuable. Number 4, find your Bayou Boys moments. Find a moment today to be purely unapologetically present. No phone, no to-do list, no worrying about the past self. Just sit. Notice the air. Notice your breath. Remind yourself that you are not what you do. You are who you are in the quiet. I want to close today by telling you what I see when I close my eyes and I think about the end of this move. I see a balcony, It's got that beautiful, ornate wrought iron. There's a ceiling fan spinning slowly overhead to cut through that New Orleans humidity. I can hear a trumpet somewhere down the street. Maybe a second line is passing by. Scott is there, leaning against the railing. The Bayou boys are napping on the cool tile. In a few minutes, the door is going to burst open and my grandson is going to be running in, shouting my name. In that vision, I'm not carrying my old lesson plans. I'm not worrying about my old titles. I'm not stressed about the hustle. I'm simply Michelle. I am that woman who had the courage to downsize the noise so that she could hear the music. That is what the radiant unfolding looks like. It's not about fading away. It's about coming into focus. It's about becoming more of yourself with every item that you let go of. The great downsize is a gift for you to your future self. It's the act of saying, I trust you to be enough without all that extra weight. Let's be clear. Being a wise matriarch isn't about sitting in a rocking chair or watching the world go by. It's about a position of active influence. The past self was a participant in the world system. The wise matriarch is an architect of her own ecosystem. When you downsize, you're clearing the clutter from your internal estate. You are deciding what legacies you want to leave behind and which ones you want to carry forward. I don't want to leave a legacy of she was always busy. I want to leave a legacy of she was always there. This shift, this great downsize, is the most grace-filled thing you will ever do for your family. By showing your adult children that you're capable of evolution, you're giving them permission to evolve too. By showing them that you value your own soft life and your radiant unfolding, you're teaching them that they don't have to be a hustler either. You are the intentional navigator of this ship. And right now, the navigator's saying, throw the heavy crates overboard. We need to be light if we're going to catch the wind toward the bayou. Thank you for sitting with me on the porch today. I know this shift can feel scary. I know letting go of the past self feels like losing a friend sometimes. But I promise you, what's waiting on the other side of that box is so much more beautiful than what you're leaving behind. If this episode really resonated with you, I'd love for you to join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing. We are a group of wise matriarchs who are all navigating our own versions of the shift. We don't do hustle, we don't do busy, and we certainly don't do it alone. Please share your glimmers with me in the comments. I want to hear all about your small joys that you're finding while you're doing the great downsize. Let go of one thing that is too heavy for you to carry this week. And remember, you have the grace to handle this shift. I'm Michelle. Find your glimmers this week and walk in grace. Bye.